Hey everybody, I'm Tarl Yarber with Fixated Real Estate, and if you're like me, you didn't get into this business of real estate investing because you wanted to hire and manage contractors. But believe it or not, if you're gonna flip houses, do the BRRRR strategies, even buy rentals, or do any kind of value add whatsoever to multifamily, commercial, single family, you're going to have to hire and work with contractors. It's the name of the game. So either you're going to have to do it or somebody else is gonna have to do it. And in my career of doing over 600 properties, I have made some huge mistakes, and I also see a lot of common mistakes out there when it comes to hiring and sourcing contractors. So I'm going to go over 6 common mistakes, 6 big ones that have messed me up, lost me lots of money in this business when it comes to hiring contractors, and I'm going to go over with those 6 things with you guys right now. All right guys, like I said, there's 6 things I'm gonna go over with you guys when it comes to hiring contractors, big mistakes that I've made when it comes to working with contractors over the years, and in this business, you cannot get away from it. You're eventually going to have to do it. Now, should that person that hires and works with contractors be you? That depends on you and your business. I've learned over the years, I've gotten pretty good at it, but I can tell you right now, I did not want to get good at it. I got good at it because I didn't want to get taken advantage of or lose money on my deals because of poor management of construction with contractors. So I was forced to get good at it. These 6 things I'm going to go over with you guys are all mistakes I have absolutely made myself and things that we've worked through so we can start avoiding. And I also have seen these 6 issues in many other investors over the years as I've grown my business. So let's start with the simple one. Cheapest isn't always best. Now that's a given, right? But also vice versa, the most expensive isn't always best too. Now there's 3 things that we all want in a project. This is a common phrase you hear in the real estate construction world. Everybody wants cheap, fast, quality. The challenge is you can only ever get 2. You're never gonna find all 3. Do you want cheap speed, right? Do you want quality speed, whatever? Those are the things you have to determine because you're not gonna get all 3. For me, what I've learned over the years is that I'd rather have affordable quality and sacrifice speed when needed to. But when I have a project that's up against the ropes, I want that speed, but I still have to have that quality no matter what. That's a big thing for me. So the only thing that fluctuates for me on those 3 things is speed and pricing. Those are the things that have to change for me constantly, but I never give up on quality. So that said, cheapest isn't always best. One of the biggest mistakes I've made in this business when it comes to real estate was hiring the cheapest electricians as an example, and also the cheapest plumbers. Those are big expenses on deals, especially when you're doing full remodels for plumbing and electrical. There's a huge range of costs that can happen to a full wired out electrical, for a house, and also for a full replumb as well for rough-in and everything as well. Huge range of cost per plumber. And I used to hate writing the big checks, so I would do everything I can to get the affordable, the cheapest guy I can get in there, and guess what? Those particular contractors, most of the time, from my experience, cause the greatest delays, cause the greatest issues, cause the greatest collateral damage, right? So when I decided to do in my business a couple years ago, when I realized, hey, the only thing that's causing all these delays is my plumber and my electrician, let's get rid of the cheapest and let's go get the better quality. And even though that's not always best, the right one, pay the trades what they're worth and what you're looking for, and it goes a long way. Trust me, it solved a lot of problems in my business. Now, how do you know if your cheapest isn't always best or what the value is, or even if you're getting the cheapest price or the most expensive? The second thing that most of us fail to do is get multiple bids. Now in today's business, in 2022 especially, pricing is all over the place in the construction field. A lot of that has to do with materials, a lot of that has to do with labor, right? There's a lot of it because there's a ton of demand out there. So supply of contractors is limited, but demand is very high. That demand is starting to taper off though as interest rates rise and as less investors are investing and as less homeowners are doing cash out refis to remodel their homes. That's going to continue to reduce demand from contractors. That said, you need to get multiple bids. When I used to always say is, hey, get 3 bids no matter what. Now I say, hey, get 6 to 10 bids on something if you really want to know if it's in an area that you've never invested in or if it's a item that you've never dealt with before. If you're not getting key referrals from very well sourced contractors from other investor friends and you're going out in the cold market to find contractors through like Craigslist, Home Depot, wherever, then you need to get lots and lots of bids in order to know is the pricing you're getting accurate. And you're going to find the right person, the more likely you're going to do that. Now third, if you're gonna get lots of bids, then you better have a clear scope. So no clear scope of work is probably the third most common thing I actually see from real estate investors and homeowners. You bring a contractor in and you go, you know, fix it, make it like good and all, right? Well, that's a big blank slate for a contractor, and they're either not gonna bid the job for you at all because it's too confusing and they realize you're gonna be a pain in the butt for sure, right? Or they're gonna give you an astronomical worst case scenario bid because they don't know what you're looking for, so they're throwing it out there. And they might give you a high number just because they don't wanna work with you, so they just throw a number out there, and if you pay it, they're willing to work for you, right? So clear scopes of work are huge. Now, how do you get a clear scope of work to work on? You can get a homeowner inspector, you can get other investors, you can get other contractors, you can get realtors that know what they're doing, you can get family members, you can investigate BiggerPockets on the forums as well. There's a great book, the book on estimating rehab costs by Jay Scott. Check it out. I learned a lot from that book that helps you kind of figure out how to build scopes. That said, one way to actually get clear scopes is go see number 2, which is multiple bids. A little cheat sheet, trick ways, is let's say you're gonna get a deck built, just using that as an example. And this deck is all messed up that you currently have, and you gotta get it fixed up, and maybe it just needs to be repaired, but you don't know anything about decks. So you bring out a deck contractor out there, and maybe they're a little bit higher value. They're gonna go out there, they're gonna investigate the deck, and they're gonna give you a bid, and when they give you a bid, there's gonna hopefully be a line item bid. Ask for line item bids. They're gonna say, okay, we're gonna replace the ledger board, we're gonna repair the deck boards, right? We're gonna put a new railing in, it's gonna look like X. They just built out a scope of work for you. You can take that scope, unfortunately to the other contractor, and give it to another contractor and say, here's my scope, can you compete with that bid and or build a similar scope as well? The more you do that, the more clear you're gonna get your scope, because you might find some contractors bid 30 items and another contractor might only bid 6. And you gotta find out why those differences are there. One of them is either doing too much or one of them is doing too little. Maybe there's something in between. Maybe they didn't see it all, maybe they did, who knows? Or maybe they're taking advantage of you, but I believe most contractors out there are trying to do an honest job. Number 4, the most common thing I've seen in mistakes for real estate investors is actually having no clear contract. So let's say you've gone through the multiple bids, you sourced probably contractors, you have a clear scope of work, but there's no contract behind it to be able to back up the actual bid and scope of work to begin with. So you get your pricing set, but it's ambiguous. It just says 20 grand, but there's no draw schedule, there's no anything in there, there's no contract to back it up in case, how does this person get paid? How do you handle other issues if something goes up? How do you know when work is completed or not, right? What the deposit is, blah, blah, blah. What if something goes wrong, how you handle it? Every state is different with contracts when you're dealing with contractors. And in my state that I invested the most in Washington, if you don't have that contract and something goes wrong, the state typically sides with the contractor. So watch out for that. So typically you're gonna be messed up if you don't have a clear contract. If you grow your business big enough to the point to where you've done enough volume, eventually you're gonna wanna get your own state-specific rehab contract that you have your contractors sign. That's what we do. But as you're growing in the business, there's no point of doing that in the beginning. Just have a contractor bring a contract to you. Make sure it reads how you want it to read. You can always get it reviewed by a construction attorney that can help you out with that. Worth paying a few $100 for that to save you tens of thousands of dollars later, for sure, and you only got to get it reviewed one time. And renegotiate with them, make sure the terms are in there that you're looking for. It pays dividends. If everything goes right, you don't need a contract. But if anything goes wrong, the contract's the most important thing. So what's in that contract? Some things that you gotta look for is number 5, having clear draw schedules. Now what is a draw? A draw is basically a way a contractor gets paid and how they know when they're getting paid. Every time if a contractor has a $10,000 scope with you and you pay $5,000 as a deposit, that's a $50,000 deposit. Now how do you pay them the other 5 grand remaining? Is it broken into pieces? Is it done at completion, right? Is it done before completion? Is there a holdback? Are they allowed to just ask for money at any time? And when do they deserve to get paid? That's called a draw schedule. So having a draw schedule is so important in this business, especially when you're working with larger remodels. How do you know when the contractor should be paid again? And what has been agreed upon needs to be agreed upon before the project starts. What I mean is, let's say that you have a larger rehab, let's call it $50,000, and you're going to have a general contractor do the entire job with you. Number one thing I would say not to do inside a draw schedule is pay a 50% deposit on a $50,000 GC, general contractor remodel. Don't do that. That's a big mistake I've made over the years. I've had contractors run off with that money, or they get started, they do some demo, they do a little bit of work, and they don't come back for months because they already got a big check from you and they're not really like struggling to get money. I prefer to give smaller deposits for the bigger jobs and basically give them a draw schedule based on completion afterwards. Now, you only have so much negotiating power depending on how desperate you are, but that said, if I have a $50,000 construction project with a GC, then I'm probably only going to give them maybe $10,000 down, which is about 20% max. Now, that should be enough for materials to get them started and all that great stuff depending on the job. Some jobs are heavier. Maybe they're buying a bunch of kitchen cabinets and also roofing material and all that stuff. Those are heavy costs that need to be figured in when you pay a deposit, for sure. One way around it is if you pay the vendors directly for the roofing material and also the cabinets and so forth, using the GC and giving the GC a little bit markup for being able to handle those materials. You can avoid having to do large deposits by negotiating that way. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole on that for you guys today in this video because we're trying to keep it simple. But that said, come up with a draw schedule. So if I give a $10,000 deposit, how do I pay the other $40,000 on this $50,000 contract? That's the draw schedule. The other key thing that you don't want to get caught in is if you've paid more than completion, significantly more than completion. That's where you get messed up when things go wrong. So if I paid a $10,000 deposit and that included materials, they got some labor going, they did some demo, and they did about $10,000 worth of work, the next draw should be based on once they've basically spent more than $10,000 worth of work. So if I look at the scope of work and I see they've done about 20% of the scope, which is the deposit I've given them, then I could probably pay them another 10 or 20%, right, as well, which would be a front paying them before completion, or I can wait till they've completed 30 or 40% to pay them post-completion. That's up to you with how you want to handle it and you and your contractor. But final note on this draw schedule, you are responsible for keeping track of it because it's your money and your investment. So not the contractor. If a contractor is randomly sending you draw requests and money requests, but you're not stopping it and saying, wait, I've already paid you $40,000 on this job and the job's not done yet and only $10,000 is left, and you still have $20,000 worth of work to do, why should I be paying you now? You need to get caught up. Most contractors will realize that they made a mistake and go handle that, right? And if they don't, then you've got a red flag going on there, so watch that. And last but not least, most common mistake and biggest pitfall that I've had in this business with handling contractors is not having a way to handle change orders. Change orders can be the death of your entire rehab budget. Change orders are created by multiple reasons. Sometimes you buy a property and you didn't bid it right, or there's hidden damage. There's things that you didn't see when you bought the property, but you mapped out an entire scope of work with a contractor to do like a $50,000 remodel based on everything being okay in the basement, or everything being okay in the foundation, or everything being okay on the roof. But then after purchasing it, you find out the roof's messed up, or the crawl space has damage in it because you weren't able to look at it pre-purchase. That's a change order to have to fix that thing. Or maybe a contractor opens up a wall and sees that the framing is eaten up by a bunch of carpenter ants or something. That's a surprise. Nobody could have seen that. Sometimes they can, but maybe nobody saw that. That's a change order. You got to fix that. Don't cover that up. Make sure you fix it. So how you handle change orders is super important in this business. Most of the time, how you're going to handle change orders should be in your contract with the contractor. If you're in some states, like my state in Washington, where I do a lot of my investing, a contractor can just basically do the work and bill you for the work later, even if you didn't approve it. And as far as the state of Washington's concerned, most of the time, they're going to side with the contractor because they already completed the work and they are assuming you approved it. Unless it states within your contract how you handle those change orders, that it must be approved in writing before they can do any work further, or else it won't be paid, then some states allows the contractor to just go do the work and shove a change order at you later at the end of the job, which is why some investors are sitting there going like, man, where are these $15,000 or $20,000 change orders coming from? And that's because the contractor was stacking them up and sending them at the very end because there wasn't a process to handling change orders written out. Huge way to lose money in these deals. Especially the bigger the deals are, the more likely the change orders are going to come unless you're very thorough in the beginning. Which, my last point, this is even one of the 6, this is just a little bonus, a little pro tip for you guys when it comes to construction and rehab, is it's better to spend more time, this is the phrase, whatever you got it from, to sharpen the axe right, then just go start chopping down the tree, right? I'm sure I messed up that phrase. But if you have an hour or whatever to chop a tree down, spend 45 minutes sharpening the axe, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. And what I mean by that has to do with your planning phase. If you buy a property, it's more important for you to spend more time planning out the property and what you're going to do with it than rushing into it and start knocking down walls and doing rehab. The more you're thorough and the more you get a clear scope, the more you open up those walls or look inside that crawl space or investigate that roof, get bids, get a plan, get a schedule, work with the right contractors, make sure you have the right bids and and blah, 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 and plan it all out before you just go jumping headfirst into it, the less likely you're going to have change orders. The less likely you're going to have issues, and the more easier the project will manage, the less reaction and the more pro-action will start to come about. So I'm Tarl Yarber. You can follow me at Tarl Yarber on Instagram. Make sure you're not following one of those fake accounts of me. Tarl Yarber, T-A-R-L-Y-A-R-B-E-R. And you can also follow BiggerPockets. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe to this video, and I'll see you on the next one.